Hello to all our viewers and podcast listeners. This is Xraised, where knowledge meets inspiration in the intricate dance of industry evolution. My name is Miles, and I'm back to breach you once again into the high stake world of law, where experience is the game changer and AI is the disruptor. Now, if you've been following X-Rays, you'll recognize our guest because she's a returning guest, and for a good reason. Joining us is the one and only Laina Chan, the co-founder and chief executive officer of MiAI Law. She's an award-winning barrister, a legal tactician, and a force to be reckoned with in commercial disputes. From construction law to insurance and fraud litigation, she's tackled some of the most complex cases out there. She's also a visionary, integrating AI into legal practice to create efficiency while ensuring that expertise, not just automation, remains at the forefront. And today's conversation, experience versus experiment, why legal expertise matters. Buckle up because Laina is here to serve as an eye-opener, especially to those legal practitioners worldwide. Laina, welcome back to X-Raised.
Thanks, Miles. Always good to be with you.
I'm more than happy to have you here as our guest, as usual. Thank you for joining me today, all the way from Sydney. And I'm all ears as we get deeper into the reasons why experience outshines AI-driven shortcuts, the dangers of inexperienced representation, and how is MiAI Law revolutionizing legal research. After a few podcasts with you, we know by now that your legal career spans decades, filled with high-stakes cases and major industry accolades. And in today's landscape, Laina, where AI tools and junior lawyers are increasingly relied upon, why is seasoned legal expertise still irreplaceable?
Well, in a nutshell, because when you come out of law school, you actually know nothing. You know the theory, you know how to find the answer theoretically, but you don't know how a judge is going to react to your arguments. And generally, the more technical the argument, or the more remote and not commonplace, the harder it is to win on the basis of those arguments. But you don't know that until you tried and failed, basically. So then as you go on, you learn that you have to really simplify your arguments for the judge. And I think that basically comes down to the fact that you may have lived your case and prepared your case for months and even sometimes years, but the judge is fresh to the case, right? That you might be lucky if the judge has even had a day or two to look at your case before they come on the bench. So while in your head, everything is very clear and you know all the detail, etc., for the judge who's fresh to the case, you have to make a huge effort to simplify everything to the most digestible form. And that comes from experience. That comes from experience to work out how to do that and also to work out which arguments are more likely to succeed than not.
Yeah, and that's actually, I must say, a powerful trifecta based on our previous conversation, your experience, your legal expertise. And as for MiAI Law, it's the mathematical mindset also for understanding the algorithms, of course, from your co-founder, Fred. Because you're right. It's not just about building AI. It's about deeply understanding the problem you're solving. I remember you emphasizing this very much. And lawyers don't just need automation practically. They need AI that truly grasps their workflow and thinks like they do. I mean, while AI can be a great assistant, a lawyer's instinct like yours, combined with courtroom experience, not just, out of law school and then they can go all the way and battle. These are really a must. And I'm sorry if I'm quite straightforward here, Laina, but for businesses and individuals facing complex legal battles, what do you think are the biggest risks of choosing less experienced legal representation?
Okay, well, you start by the difficulty of the case and the size of the case. So if it's a simple case and it's not very high stakes, then obviously it's okay to go with the cheaper lawyer. Cheaper generally means less experience, less.
You're more straightforward than me. I was trying to. Okay, go ahead.
Because there's different grades of lawyers, right? There's like you go to different lawyers for different courses, different races. So if it's a simple debt recovery matter, you can just go to a debt recovery firm and get them to help you. But if the stakes get really high and the legal issues get really complicated and you're dealing with lots and lots and lots of money, and
Yeah.
there's heaps of documents and data and legal principles that you have to address in your case, then you have to go to a firm that can provide that service for you. And then, so that would generally mean a bigger team, more lawyers on the team, and more technical lawyers.
Yes. Well, basically, it's like you're fighting over a parking ticket, let's say. A rookie lawyer might do the job, but if your business, huge business, is on the line in a contract, say, dispute, you need someone who's navigated that battlefield more often before, obviously, right? I mean, why would you
Yes, and
let
it's not, and it could be more than one lawyer. You would go from
team?
one lawyer who can help you with your parking ticket to needing a team of lawyers. So it's the size of the team as well that you would have to look at to see what would be appropriate for the particular case that you are working on.
Yeah. Now, Laina, you recently attended NVIDIA's GTC conference in California, which is one of the biggest global AI gatherings for developers. With that fresh perspective, how does MiAI Law ensure that AI serves as a powerful tool to empower experienced lawyers rather than, a substitute for their experience, for their
Well,
expertise?
what's really interesting is that Fred and I couldn't find a single session on legal tech in the whole conference. So the conference went for 5 days, from Monday till Friday, and
Uh-huh.
there wasn't a single session on legal tech. There were, the heaps of sessions on robotics and robotics, video, AI, other types, agents helping you with your workflow, but there wasn't a single session that we could find anywhere that actually dealt with legal tech.
Okay.
So that's really interesting. And then
Mhm.
in the last couple of days, while we have been working on our investor pitch deck, we actually partitioned up all the startups and service providers in law into 4 categories. The first category was the contract review category, and there's quite a few startups and service providers in that, more than 10, I reckon. Then when you go to legal research, you have a bunch of them serving the United States and overseas, but mainly the United States. But when you come to Australia, you have the typical giants, LexisNexis and Thomson Reuters.
Uh-huh.
And you have one other provider, but they only have a very small offering. And then you have us. Then when there's another bunch, a category that deals with alternative legal services, and there's that. And then there's a huge category with more than 20 service providers in there where they're just automating process. So that's what we found. Well, that's what I noticed, that when we're looking at the marketplace to see what kind of services are actually, or what kind of tools are actually available for lawyers, a lot of the tools being offered to lawyers deal with process automation. And then the second biggest group are service providers providing contract review services. But in the area that we're in, at least Australia and the Commonwealth, there aren't. And I mean, there's LexisNexis and there's Thomson Reuters, but very soon when our product is launched, our agentic search for a curated list of primary source legal websites, basically ChatGPT, but built specifically for law. We're not using OpenAI.
Yeah.
You see why we are different.
Well, that's
Very
pretty.
different into the output, or
It
as
seems
Jensen
like
Huang
it.
calls it, the throughput of what you get when you ask our system a research question, and the research report that we generate for you is totally different what you will find on the services provided by LexisNexis and Thomson Reuters.
It's a bespoke version of chat.
Well, it's a bespoke version. And then going back to the point of experience, and I've said in the previous episode 3, that I have had to think about how I go about doing my work. So I've identified the process, and that process has been hard-coded into our system.
And Jewel is very much different. That's actually pretty amazing, Lena. Being first in this specific space is huge for MiAI Law. It's like the kickstart to giving lawyers a booster, enhancing their abilities, but still requiring their expertise to drive the strategy. And AI doesn't, and AI doesn't necessarily replace the warrior. Then again, it just gives them better armor, rather. And on the other side, Lena, I'd like to let our audience know how helpful this innovation is really. So, for clients searching for top tier legal representation, what are the red flags that might indicate a firm lacks the necessary experience or depth to handle the case effectively?
Well, all cases are different, so you have to look, and they deal with different subject matters. So you just have to look at, interview get your recommendations. Most law work comes from referrals and recommendations, and then you have to interview them and see, whether they fit the bill. But really, the world of law, work is generally generated by referrals.
I see. Well, clearly it's not necessarily about.
But for the public, the law is really a black box. They have no idea what happens, right? They go and see their lawyer, they ask the lawyer a question, and then the lawyer disappears for a week or two and then gives them an answer and then sends them a really big bill. They don't really know what has happened behind the scenes, and they don't realize that typically the lawyer would not know the answer off the top of their head, and that they would have to go away and do the research to find the answer. With complicated cases, obviously for very simple debt recovery matters, you come and ask me a question, I can tell you. But when the matter is very complicated and it's out of the ordinary, we do not know the answer off at the tip of our fingers, and we have to go away and do research. So in fact, one of my friends, he said that he had asked his firm about some legal question, and then they disappeared, I think, for 3 weeks, and came back and then told him the answer and issued him with the bill for $45,000. And then they said to him, well, that's because we didn't know the answer. We'd never done this before. We had to go and do a research. And then for relationship reasons, he chose not to pull them up on it. But, I think generally the public does not really realize, unless you're a really informed consumer, and most people are not informed consumers of the law, that we don't have the answer generally at the tip of our fingers, and we have to go and do the research.
That's very good explanation, Laina. That's very enlightening for the audience. Clearly, it's not just about the size, but about how a firm equips itself with the right tools. And obviously, clients should definitely look for firms that invest in expertise and technology as well. I mean, why not?
That's right. So, right from the beginning, all lawyers should have access to research tools, and generally the bigger the firm, they would have more paralegals and junior lawyers who would be available to do the research. And then you would need tools to enhance your research abilities, and that's where MiAI Law comes in, because for example, in our first product, which is the ChatGPT for Law, which is just a search function on a curated list of websites, and you can have per month, will generate 20 research reports for you. If you compare that, it would take a paralegal at least 20 days to answer 20 questions. And that's being very generous, because if the answer is very complicated, it could take more. But we can generate those answers for you in less than 3 minutes. And, and as we get more and more compute power, and at the NVIDIA conference, Jensen Huang was saying that they're going to be releasing these super power servers called the Blackwell GB200s. And as they release more and more compute power and more server power, then the time to answer these questions really drops. But those servers are not ready yet. So at the moment, we're using these H100 servers, but it's taking a longer time to answer these questions, because so much compute power is needed to answer each one of these research questions. So for example, I know we don't want to go into too much detail. To answer each question that a user will ask us, we have limited it to 2 million tokens. So 2 million tokens to answer one question is, if we were using OpenAI, that would cost $150 per question, just in terms of token usage. And so it takes time for the agents to go and search the curated list of websites that I've told the agent, the robot, that it can search. And then when the answers come back, it goes through our deep reasoning model and our law ranking model, and all that is working in the background, and then it spits the answer out. So it's not like pre-deep reasoning where we could have given you much, much faster answers. But because now it's taking time, it has to go and do this research, and with the limitations of the current compute power, it is taking a few minutes to return the answers. I mean, that's how long, when you're doing deep research on OpenAI, it sometimes takes 8 minutes, 10 minutes. But for instance, because they're throttling down to kind of save money.
Yeah.
Because it's
I
so
was gonna say.
expensive. Yes.
Yeah,
That's right.
because less than 3 minutes is way far from the usual 20 days. And with accuracy that
Well,
you
3 minutes per day. So for each question, I think you can just say, oh, well, let's just say roughly it's 1 day. That's right. So it's still saving you so much time. And
I
so in
know.
terms of having a paralegal, you have to pay them with $60 Australian an hour. So it's maybe $500 at least to get one research report out. And for us, we're giving it for you. We're giving it to you in, I don't know, 3 to 5 minutes. And eventually you'll get even faster.
Yeah, and time is money. When you save time, you
Yes,
save money, basically.
that's
So,
right.
looking ahead, Laina, how do you see the legal industry evolving in terms of balancing AI innovation with the irreplaceable value of real-world legal experience?
Okay, so I think we're heading towards super intelligence, and there's varying views as to when we get to super intelligence. So I attended a talk at NVIDIA with Jan LeCun, who is this god. He's at Meta. He's the AI researcher, lead researcher, and
Yeah.
he thinks that super intelligence is still about 10 years away. That's what he thinks. But then Fred thinks it's much closer and much closer than 10 years. And super intelligence means that your AI will be able to think and reason. And, over time, as you're using these services and the model is learning from you and it's learning, it's developing with your input. We're not using your data to sell it or train our model, but inherently the model is learning from you, especially when we get our perfect memory going, so that every session you have with us, the model remembers. So as it's doing this and it gets to know you, and it gets to know how you operate, it gets to know, and in the whole time when you're researching, it's giving you all the data that you need to make the informed decision, and then it knows it's following you on the journey. So as it goes on, I really think it will get to the point where your own personally trained model that you've been working on for years will become an embodiment of you and your experience.
Yeah, it's like a copy of you, but with
Yes.
a more accurate memory. I remember your main goal here is to have a perfect memory. And it's a very interesting feature and challenge combined, Laina. You mentioned super intelligence. Future lawyers won't just be learning the law, they'll be learning how to work alongside AI and all the tech there is. And the profession is indeed evolving in a very great way. And this has been another phenomenal conversation with you, Laina. You've given us a masterclass on why experience matters and how MiAI Law is pushing the boundaries of legal innovation. So before we go, could you once again remind our audience how they can learn more about your work?
I just fine-tune our product offerings because our first offering is out very soon. So I've cut it back and distilled it and back to our core competence, which is really legal research and helping you with your case strategy and your research. So it's MiAI, MiAI.law.
Yeah, copy that. Thank you so much, Laina. There you go, folks. Laina is not here just because she's a brilliant innovator and a legal expert. We invited her over and over again because she's always looking for ways to empower lawyers and improve legal access. So if you're looking for an unparalleled leap in legal research where data transparency meets human-like, expertly recent answers with, as she mentioned in her previous episodes, 95% precision and an astonishing 99.99% database retrieval success at lightning speed. So keep your eyes on MiAI Law. Thank you again, Laina, for joining us today.
Thanks, Miles.
And to our audience, thanks for tuning in. If you found today's discussion valuable, follow Xraised and don't forget to watch out for more episodes with Laina. Until next time, this has been your host, Miles. Stay focused and inspired with Xraised.